played in the opening term. Boundary throw-in, lands right at the goal mouth. Rack left it behind Christophe. Didn't get it. Got it to his boot.
Well, welcome to the WFNL Show presented by Arrow Transport, proud naming rights partner of the Western Football Netball League. Great to have your company after round one. A bumper weekend to talk about. We will go around the grounds and talk about the standout teams and some individual performances from round one in the TIV Division 1 Senior Men's Competition, Division 2 Senior Men's Competition, St Vincent Private Hospital Werribee Senior Women's, and timely that we have the umpire community round as well. Lockie Hardy will be joining us a little bit later on. Let's introduce Cal Rowe, who'll be joining us to talk about St Vincent Private Hospital Werribee Senior Women's Competition. Tell us about your participation in the WFNL over the years as a player, a coach.
I guess if I think about my participation in the WFNL in recent years, there's probably not one job that I maybe haven't done. I've played coaching this year. I've been a team manager. I've been a committee member. I obviously cover the women's competition as a volunteer media reporter. So I just like to tell people that I'm a WFNL nuffy. It's probably the best way to put it. Yep.
Now let's go around the grounds and talk about some of the results. We'll start off with the TIV Division 1 men's competition. Obviously, we had the grand final rematch, Werribee Districts getting the job done over Caroline Springs by 30 points. But Yarraville against Parkside, in terms of the margin, 13 points. Great win for Yarraville Seddon on the weekend, Spita.
Yeah, it certainly was. They led all day, and Parkside do look like they've added a little bit more to their playing list, and probably the result showed on the weekend. They were right in there for 4 quarters and probably not going to be, I obviously always want to win, but coming up against a really strong Yarraville side in it all day.
And Nick, tell us about some of the matches that stood out for you in round one.
Yeah, obviously, Parkside running the Eagles close was a really good sign for them. That definitely sort of was a big takeaway from the weekend. Outside of Will Hoskin-Elliott kicking a couple in his debut and taking a pretty solid hanger, already making the rounds on socials. So good to get some eyes on that. But I think Spotswood's strong 23-point win over Newport was a really good indication of how they're going. Came out of the blocks flying with 7 goals to 3 in that first term. Newport made a little bit of a run late.
And Spita, any other performances, either team or individual, that stood out for you across the weekend in the TIV Division 1 Senior Men's?
Probably just the one that I thought was probably Albion. I thought probably really flown under the radar in terms of pre-season, a couple of handy recruits. I think they debuted 7 players on the weekend, and a strong win against Point Cook, who I think came really improved towards the end of last season. So I think Albion's performance on the weekend is really one that keep an eye on them.
Let's talk about the St Vincent Private Hospital Werribee Senior Women's Competition. And Kel, it was rocks or diamonds on the weekend. We had either big results and big margins or close games.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like weather was also very much the theme of the game too. I don't know that we've seen a true tell of what teams can put out on the park just yet. We had a couple of close matches Friday night between Werribee Centrals and Laverton. Really hard contests and hard conditions. Massive wins on Saturday morning from both Parkside Spurs over Yarraville. The Devils came out for their first showing in the women's competition. They're an inaugural side for North Footscray. Had the unfortunate clash with Caroline Springs, who essentially were the premiership side last year. The draw curse that my own team, West Footscray, has had with Point Cook Centrals was finally broken. We played each other twice last year, 2 draws, nearly exactly the same score. This weekend just passed. We managed to knock them off by 41 points. That was really satisfying. And the final game of the round on Saturday afternoon between Wyndham Vale and Suns was another wet weather, gritty contest.
Great stuff, Cal. All right. Spita, last year in Division 2, a little bit like round 1 in the senior women's comp, we had some kind of wild margins.
Yeah, sure did. In the Wyndham Derby, I suppose you'd call it, they were too strong all day, but, Western Rams getting through with a win, I think, is a really good result. Probably just run over the top of Laverton in the end. West Footscray's win over Sunshine High to probably still gelling together. I think Nick touched on them last week. I think a pretty good result for the Roosters.
Some pretty decent results across the league. A really competitive effort from Tarneit. I thought, obviously, not getting the win against Auburn Vale. Auburn Vale's inaccuracy probably cost made the margin look a little bit kinder than it probably was on the day. It was like, North Footscray, really good, solid win over Braybrook by 24 points there. Lyndon Dunn celebrating his first game in Devils colours with 5 goals. So we were interested to maybe see like what end of the ground he's playing at, and I think that sufficiently answers that question for now.
Well, that was a comprehensive wrap of the weekend that was round 1 for TIV Division 1 Senior Men's Competition. Division 2 we just went through in the St Vincent Private Hospital Werribee Senior Women's. This weekend, we've got the commencement of the thirds football on Friday night. That is a 12-team competition in 2026. And junior footy on Sunday as well. We are looking forward to that. It is also Community Umpiring Week this week. And the WFNL Director of Umpiring is Lockie Hardy. How important is it for the AFL to take a strong stance on umpire dissent, given, of course, juniors and others watch the AFL and that can trickle down to suburban footy?
You're right. It is quite important. It does send a bit of a message. I mean, I've had a few dealings with Nick Foote, and he's a very, very honest sort of guy. And so it is interesting that it's turned into a bit of a he said kind of thing. I haven't really been following it. I know they've got live updates on the AFL website or whatever. But yeah, when this sort of stuff happens at the top level, it definitely does filter down. It's the same with free kicks and things like that. It starts at the top, but people watch this, and you just hope it doesn't really creep into local footy.
So, look, I know it's been a challenge to try and grow and develop the stocks, across the board in Victoria, but particularly in our league. We can't play the game that we love without them. And I know you're particularly keen to increase the participation of women and girls in the umpiring space as well. What's your approach there? Like, do you have any strategies and activations in place? And have you got anything exciting that's sort of in the pipeline for that?
So we did a little bit of work over the off season. We had a couple of women and girls come and try days and things like that. We had access to Arden Street, so that was really, really good of North Melbourne to allow us to do that. I think that sort of drags a few people in, getting to train at somewhere like that. And then I guess from there, once we can get them to training and they do 1 or 2 games and they see a bit of money come into their account, that's sort of where we keep them. But the big thing for us over the last 12 months, particularly in the women and girls space, is, we've had at training nights, we probably haven't had the amount of females there that we would have liked. And so obviously if you're a young girl or woman coming down and, there's 3 or 4 girls there, it's not really that inviting to come back the next week. Look, that was probably a big focus of mine in the off season, particularly focusing on the women and girls space, because, young boys come in and, it's pretty easy they jump on the boundary, they just follow their mates and they just want a bit of pocket money. It's not as tricky to recruit that sort of audience. So yeah, the women and girls space was a big target of mine in the off season, and we've done okay. So we've had a slight increase, which is good, but always want more. That's for sure.
Tell me about what is this actual? The first I heard of it really was not too long ago from Brett. What is this actual weekend about?
Yeah, so basically it's just a way for us to really promote, I suppose, put umpiring in the spotlight, which, like we touched on before, it's, not great with Nick Foote going up to the tribunal in the same week. But so we've got about 27 umpires and coaches from the VFL coming to our training on Thursday night. And then I think we've got 7 AFL umpires. We were meant to have Nathan Williamson come down to training, but he's umpiring Thursday night, so he's actually umpiring a junior game for us on Sunday. So it's just just a way for him to go, all right, we've got all these high-level umpires giving back, and it's a good way to try and drag more people to training. So yeah, it's just putting us in the spotlight for a week, basically, even though we don't always like the spotlight, but hopefully it helps get a few numbers across the board. So.
Well, Lockie, great to have you on. As you said, umpires don't normally like to be in the spotlight, but if they're going to be, it might as well be for a good reason. Community Umpiring Week, it's so important, and we appreciate your time on the podcast. Community Umpiring Week, we are looking forward to it. That is the WFNL Director of Umpiring, Lockie Hardy. We appreciate his time on the podcast today. Time now to get stuck into the plays of the week. I know that Nick and Spita have an obvious one, but Cal, not sure if this one was caught on camera, but you caught one on your social media feed. Tell us one of your plays of round 1.
Yeah, absolutely. One could argue that Wyndham Vale Falcons had an extra bird on the ground in their game.
Was it a bin chicken?
It was not a bin chicken. It was for at least 2 quarters. A Cape Barren goose was running amok in the middle of the ground. The footballers stayed out of the goose's way, and the goose stayed out of the footballers' way. But I think if you ask any of the girls, they'd probably argue the goose got best on. But yeah, I did catch it on camera. It gave me a pretty good laugh for most of that game.
Nick and Spita, there was an obvious standout in terms of the plays of the week round one.
Yeah, Will Hoskin-Elliott is already putting his name up in lights and quite high up in those lights as well. Obviously, as we talked about and Spita discussed before, really good win for the Eagles against Parkside. But yeah, big highlight doing the rounds on socials was a pretty decent hanger, Spita, from Will Hoskin-Elliott inside 50.
Yeah, absolutely. As good as any mark you will see in any competition on Saturday. So, yeah, a ripper. Just took it at its highest point, and I believe he went back and kicked that too. So, happy days.
You got to kick him. You got to kick him.
Yeah.
Good to see he's still got some legs as well. Sometimes players, even, their first off-season out of their AFL career, let themselves go. But clearly he can still get up there. Let's see, though, some of the other plays, including that one from round one. That was the plays of the week from round one, our Skins Special Effort Award. Here are the Skins Special Effort Award winners for round one. Let's check them out now on screen. Well done to all the recipients who will receive a pair of compression tights. Thanks to Skins, the Skins Special Effort Award will see up to 4 sets of skins handed out each week in recognition of a special effort on the footy field and the netball court. All right, now, time now to get stuck into our match of the day. Kel, in terms of the St. Vincent Private Hospital Werribee Senior Women's League, what's a match that has caught your eye coming up this weekend?
Well, I mean, all weather reports are looking pretty sound this weekend, so I'm hoping that this will be a real true reveal of where these two teams are at. Caroline Springs, Werribee Centrals. Obviously, these two have been in a number of battles over the years, particularly in finals and in grand finals. This weekend, their senior team for Caroline Springs will also start their competition in the EDFL. So I think we'll get a real good look at who the true Caroline Springs WFNL players are. But also, Werribee might have lost a couple of players. They certainly didn't lose the energy that they needed to win on Friday night in tough conditions. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that matchup. Yeah,
the Caroline Springs defence might actually see the ball this weekend, given the margin of victory against North Footscray. Fellas, Parkside v Albion. Parkside going down to Yarraville Seddon, and Albion big winners in round one over Point Cook. How much are you looking forward to this?
It should be a really good clash between the two sides. Unfortunately, it is my week off on the radio, so I won't be there to see it. But like you said, the Magpies look really competitive against Yarraville Seddon. Albion had a really strong win over the Dogs. I think that it should be a good clash to kind of see where both sides are at.
Yeah, well, after watching Sunshine last week, and I'm pretty interested to see, and speaking of Guy, I'm actually really interested to see how they go against Hoppers Crossing. I think, everyone expects Hoppers Crossing to be right up there at the end of the season. From what I saw on Sunshine, there's nothing to suggest that they couldn't be as well. I think they'll have a pretty good side in. And I also am interested whether Altona can bounce back in any way. Newport, probably a bit unlucky to go to Spotswood, be really competitive for 4 quarters. I think they'll probably be too strong for Altona. But I think they're 2 games outside of the match of the day between Parkside and Albion, which I also agree is going to be a belter of a game.
Pump, looking forward to it. Cal, where will we find you this weekend?
I've got a 10 a.m. hit out with Laverton in my books. Looking forward to that one. They're a pretty tough at the ball contested side, so definitely a different sort of challenge from the Laverton involved. But yeah, that'll be my my morning's activity.
And Spita, the wind almost blew you away last weekend. What about this weekend?
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'll be headed just yet. I missed the Bombers win to go and watch Altona. Maybe I'll just stay home and watch the Bombers win.
They might be back, the Bombers, finally, with the Anzac Day not too far away, of course. They've got the Suns on the Gold Coast this weekend, but we've got heaps of footy coming up in the WFNL and all divisions, footy and at netball as well. Nick, Spita, Cal, thanks for your company, reviewing round 1 and looking ahead to round 2. That is the WFNL show presented by Arrow Transport. We'll catch you next week.